Moving on, I've also got something which is a bit simpler. And what this is that if you have seen Blade Runner and if you've seen it all the way to the end, you will know what this is all about. So this is like the ARP from the end of the movie. You can hear that little bit of delay there because we've actually got the onboard delay on with this particular patch. So this is interesting because, again, if you look a little bit further down here at the notes, you can see there's actually no ARP programmed. It's literally all happening on board of the synth. So again, as with the previous more lead or bright kind of, sound that we heard before, it is very much a two-part thing. And in the upper synth, again, I'm utilizing the sawtooth wave. This case, I've got the 24 dB per octave low pass on because, again, I didn't want things to get too bright, and again, just bringing those cutoffs down a little bit. And from there, again, a very short overall envelope. Again, attack level on the synth very, very high here, and also as well the decay time on the filter very, very short on the filter envelope. So again, it's going to give it that little bit of pluckiness, right? So yeah, you can see here short, very short attack, very short decay, bit of a longer release, but again, nothing really going on the brilliance or the level after or initial here. So again, I'm going for drive rather than expression in this case. And again, the same here on the second oscillator here on part 2. Again, 24 dB low pass filter, and again, very similar kind of setup really across the board. Maybe a slightly shorter release here again. So again, you can see here dialed over, it's a little bit more over towards on the oscillator mix here on part 2. And if we sort of dial back to the left here, you can actually see oscillator 2 or part 2 is actually 1 octave further down because we can set it here, obviously. So we've got this kind of lower drive going on. And we've got, again, pretty much no modulation going on with the sub oscillator at all, even though the speed is set to like 2.5 hertz here. Nothing really too sexy going on at all across the board. However, where things get a little bit interesting is when we open up at the top here and we get into the modulation, which again, nothing much going on. However, the multi is what is really, really driving these aspects. So let's just have another listen to this in the context of watching what is happening with our multi-editor here. So again, we are essentially utilizing, and you'll see a complete breakdown of how this works in the second session of this CS80 course, where you can see here we've got each slot here, if you will, of the 8 representing a step on a almost like a step sequenced arpeggiator. And again, each one is set to zone 1. And again, if we roll over here to zone 1, you can see it's set to Omni, which means it will accept all MIDI channels, but you could just as happily set that to MIDI channel 1. The keyboard range from low to high is just set completely, and rotate is set on the voice mode, which means essentially every time we have the note pressed, it will rotate on to the next active step or the next active slot in this multi-matrix, if you will. The most important aspects of this sound in terms of triggering it as an ARP, as you can see, zone 1 is set to having voice ARP activated, which means it then links it to the arpeggiator here. And you can see that's synced to 4 times the tempo, which is basically like a 16th note, and we have the play on. So that is what gives it that arpeggiated quality. Now here on the second bank here towards the end, what you'll see is that you've got transposition. You've got the ability to take this last but one step up 2 semitones, and the final one goes up 3, and that's literally what gives it the feel. Other than that, a little bit of delay just to keep it carrying, and the rest is fairly self-explanatory, and we can hear that now. And we can add a little bit of sidechain to that, and you know where I'm going here. I mean, I could sit here and do that for the rest of the evening and not get bored, you know? And again, it's funny just to take a little bit of inspiration from a movie like Blade Runner, be able to put our own little twist and our own little spin on it with some reverb and stretching the decays out and stuff. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that kind of gave me mild goosebumps there, to be honest. And again, just the ability to program natively within the CS80 as an ARP. And I love working in these kind of like stepped environments where ARPs are concerned, where each step you can nudge by a semitone or two and it'll completely change the whole aspect of it. And I just love that very intuitive way of working with that type of thing. And again, you know, with the arpeggiator being on, we can then, obviously that's all working within 1 octave, and we can add another level of complexity here. It gets quite addictive, right? It sounds fantastic. So, you know, very, very easy to get lost in all of this. And you know, again, being able to just tweak things like the octave repeat is just great, you know, and that can be easily mapped to MIDI controllers. It can be mapped to macros within Ableton in particular. You know, whatever DAW you're going to work in, you can map some form of macro or smart control to it and just crack on, you know. And again, yeah, I mean, Paul Woods has nailed it. It's like that Masioplex Blade Runner remix, right? And it's got that kind of 80s sci-fi kind of vibe to it, which is what you want. And again, integrating that little bit of noise. But the most important thing is actually what oscillator you bring the noise in from. Because again, if you listen and we flip over to just mix on the first upper synth, again, what you can hear is that it's very, very clicky in its initial element. And that even on its own there is quite cool. Again, like as Garen says, like a 15-minute Nolan edit. I mean, I could literally just like, you know, I could stay here for more than 15 minutes doing that. Like, I mean, it's fantastic. And like as James says, it is literally like a sequencer. It's like a step sequenced arpeggiator. And again, session 2 of the CS80 classes here, we have got them up on the website. And again, as part of this sort of overall course on the website, you'll see a whole breakdown of how that kind of works. So again, being able to hear that whole thing is quite cool in the context of like adding like a really nice kind of drum groove to the whole thing. So yeah, so there's the Blade Runner.